Welcome to today's custom deep dive into the excerpts from Aspasia of Miletus, the most remarkable woman of classical Athens. Our mission for you today is to explore exactly how a foreign woman in 5th century BCE Athens managed to, well, shatter the ultimate glass ceiling. She transformed herself into a powerful political influencer and, a teacher to legendary philosophers.
It really is an unbelievable story. To fully appreciate what she pulled off, you have to understand the paradox of Golden Age Athens. I mean, on the one hand, you have this dazzling, radical democracy building the Parthenon and creating Western theater.
Right, the cradle of democracy.
Exactly. But on the other hand, the ideal, respectable Athenian citizen woman was expected to be completely invisible in public life. The actual goal was to not be talked about at all, whether in praise or in blame.
And then in walks Aspasia. She was originally from Miletus, a cosmopolitan hub of Ionian philosophy. Because she wasn't from Athens, she was classified as a metic, a resident foreigner. She's also frequently labeled in the sources as a hetera.
Okay, let's unpack this. That sounds terrible to modern ears, but from what I understand, being a hetera wasn't exactly what the comic poets made it out to be.
No, not at all. Citizen wives were confined to the home and largely uneducated, so hetera were often the only women who had the social refinement and the learning to actually engage in high-level conversation with powerful men. Calling her a mere prostitute was a deliberate smear by comic playwrights to
weaponize the fact that she had unprecedented public visibility and agency.
Exactly that.
Which brings us to her relationship with Pericles, who was basically the most powerful statesman in Athens. They were the ultimate ancient power couple, but I understand they never actually married. Why couldn't they make it official? That is the profound historical irony here. They couldn't marry because of a strict citizenship law. Pericles himself championed back in 451 BCE. It started you needed 2 Athenian parents to be a citizen, so they lived together in a socially recognized but not legally binding partnership. And what is so striking about their partnership is the deep mutual respect. The historian Plutarch noted that Pericles kissed Aspasia every morning when he left the house and every evening when he returned.
Which sounds perfectly normal to us today, but how is that viewed by Athenians at the time?
Oh, it completely scandalized his contemporaries. That kind of public display of affection was incredibly rare.
But this wasn't just a romance. I was shocked to read that she didn't just teach Socrates rhetoric, but she might have actually written Pericles' most famous speech, the funeral oration.
Right, that staggering claim comes straight from Plato's dialogue Menexenus. What's fascinating here is how their home effectively became the premier intellectual salon of the ancient world. You had the greatest minds of the century gathering in her living room. We're talking about the philosopher Anaxagoras, the master sculptor Phidias, and Socrates himself.
And she wasn't just pouring the wine either. Sources say she was actively participating, leading the debates, and teaching.
Yes, but of course a foreign woman wielding that much influence painted a huge target on her back.
Right, I saw one comic poet even blamed her for starting the Peloponnesian War.
Yes, Aristophanes wrote a play absurdly claiming the devastating war started because some Megarians kidnapped 2 of her prostitutes. It was a total comic invention, but the joke only lands if the audience already knows she has unprecedented political sway. The attacks weren't just jokes, though. She faced a very real, politically motivated trial for impiety.
It was essentially a proxy attack on Pericles by his political enemies, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Pericles literally wept in the courtroom pleading for her life, which was shocking for a leader known for his strict self-control.
And it worked. She was ultimately acquitted. But surviving a literal trial for her life really underscores how dangerous it was for her to step out of the shadows. It makes you wonder how much of her true story we actually have.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Aspasia's story is a vital lesson in media literacy and critical thinking for you. It forces you to question how history is curated.
Because everything we know about her comes through these highly filtered lenses.
Right, male comic poets who felt threatened by her, or philosophers who idealized her. It is a reminder to always recognize when sources are heavily filtered through societal anxiety.
That perfectly wraps up our deep dive into the extraordinary life of Aspasia of Miletus.
It's been a pleasure exploring this material with you.
We will leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over. Everything we know about Aspasia was written by the men who either loved or hated her. If a hidden scroll written in her own voice were unearthed tomorrow, how might her words completely rewrite the foundations of Western philosophy?